The Season 10 midseason is here, tanks are busted, and I wanted to talk about one character that was particularly favored by all of the changes this season. And that's going to be Junker Queen. So you guys are going to be watching a little bit of my ranked gameplay just on this character. And I do want to do one disclaimer before I get really into this, is that I don't think Junker Queen is the strongest tank pick right now. In fact, I don't really know who is at the moment. I haven't played that much, and I haven't really been watching too many scrims or games, so I'm not sure where the meta is super at right now. I do think it is probably still just like Soj, Kiri, Lucio, Tracer, and whatever tank. I've seen Malga or anything. But with all that being said, I wanted to go through all of the changes and why they particularly make Junker Queen pretty good, at least in a much better spot than she was in the previous season. So let's talk about the big ones here. Tanks having less headshot damage is pretty good for Junker Queen. She doesn't benefit the most from this because she does have a naturally harder to hit head hurt box than, say, Hog or something. But a character that has no direct damage mitigation like Queen is going to benefit when they're just going to take less damage, and that's going to allow Queen to be in fights longer, and basically just be harder to kill. And that's very good, because I think with characters like Sojourn and like Cassie, who's been good recently, it's hard to get value out of Queen because as she's running, she can get dinked in the head and then she loses all of her health. And you're already, like, once Queen has no health on her engage, that's kind of it. The fight is over for her. So there's not much she can do at that point. So that is one of the big things for Queen. I think one of the, maybe not underrated, but something you need to consider also for Queen is that she is very much so affected by the knockback changes. In fact, out of all the characters that aren't dive characters, I think she benefits the most from the knockback resistance, because she has multiple abilities that she has to channel, and she has a direct speed boost. So basically, think about Carnage, right? When you're playing with the axe and you're swinging it, if a Lucio boops you in the middle of it, you're not going to hit anything. It's going to go back on that 8-second long cooldown. Now that you don't go as far, you don't have to worry about that as much, and you're still going to be able to hit people and still be this big menace and get this giant damage out. So Lucio is, and teams like that, they're going to have to focus on giving up space rather than denying you space. And I feel like that is a very, very big distinction for Queen, because being able to just run in on people and have resources to do so is what makes Queen really, really good. And also, in the same thing with the channeling, her ultimate does have to be channeled. Rampage, it does take a second and she goes. Much less likely for her to get completely knocked away or like where she can't follow up the value anymore. Again, a very big change. This is more for like, Lucio less so. And still Lucio, but like if for whatever reason there's like a Brig or even like a Pharah concuss, like you're less likely to get completely knocked around while you're trying to cast the ultimate initially. And that is also really, really good. Not as good as Carnage, I don't think. I think the Carnage change is like, that is like what keeps her in the game over and over again. But then also just like Shout in general, that's a big closing the big thing that helps you close the distance because of the speed boost on it. So like if she can't be knocked back as much, she's going to be able to get further with Shout, and that's good because Queen doesn't want to be out in the open, and knockbacks would keep her out in the open and keep her taking damage. No longer is that the case nearly as much anymore, so Queen's going to be able to get where she wants to go much more effectively. And again, like, I think the knockback changes are the most like beneficial for dive tanks where it's very obvious, but then again, like Carnage is obvious, Rampage is obvious. If you're skillful enough and you have good awareness, I do think that the moments she wants to shout are also pretty obvious. So this is a really big deal for Queen, right? And then briefly, we'll go over the other two system changes. The health over time, obviously, it's good for Queen. She's a tank. Not as good as most of the other tanks, but it scales with your... Well, actually, now that I say that, since it's like a flat rate plus a percentage of what your max health is. Out of all the tanks, since I think she has the lowest health, or maybe Doom has the lowest health, she's right there, like close to the lowest health. She's going to benefit technically proportionally more because that flat 10 is a higher percentage of her health pool than it is other characters. So she gets the 10% or 10 flat plus 5% of her health pool. So it's not that much, like, let's be real. And it's hard for her to not take damage constantly. So it's even hard for it to happen in the first place. But, you know, it's something. And then also the other one that the only thing that kind of hurts Queen is the armor change, because she's going to be a little worse against characters with armor with her shotgun, because her shotgun has these little pellets. So she's going to be doing a little bit less damage to characters with armor. But the big thing to know here is that her damage doesn't just come from raw burst potential, it also comes from her bleed. And since her bleed is a damage over time effect, it is not affected by the armor change. Or it's not affected by armor. At least in the same way. So that actually isn't much of a factor. So it's not all of her damage being mitigated like this. Only some of it. And, you know, especially with Queen, you are, yes, less effective against tanks with armor. And Queen could be good into certain tanks because of her shotgun. But really, Queen is just good at getting on the back line and assassinating people. Hitting a big knife and then getting big burst damage with the shotgun and the rest of her abilities. You know, Queen can deny dive tanks. Like, it's harder for them to leave with knife. But other than that, like, you know, she just kind of forces them to leave rather than, like, hard dueling them like a Mauga or somebody. So I don't think that change is particularly that bad for Queen at the end of the day. And while we're, you know, that's all like the system changes, let's talk about the actual things that she got in this most recent patch, because she also got buffed on top of that. So the two, we'll go by least important to most important. The least important one is the quality of life feature. Basically, while she's channeling her axe or rampage, she can shout in the middle of it. It just makes the character feel good. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It just kind of saved you from realizing you are, or taking too much health on an engage, realizing, you know, like thinking you weren't going to, and then just dying before you're able to get the shout out. I don't think this is that big of a deal. I don't think it's really lowering Queen's skill curve at all. I think she's still very skillful and hard to get a lot of value out of, even with these changes. So I am definitely a fan. It just makes her feel better. Nothing wrong with that, right? You can see me. Oh, you can't see me. Look, I'm celebrating this win in the background. Anyways, the other change, very big. Shout got 2 seconds of its cooldown removed, which, with Shout, I want you to remember that Queen was hard meta in the beta because Shout was so good. Now, it was good because it gave people more overhealth, and I think it was on like a shorter cooldown like this. But just a lot of her power and staying power in fights is in Shout. So it is very good when Queen gets her Shout buffed. I do think that this is a very, very big deal because it allows Queen to be in the fights longer. And with all the other changes she got, like, admittedly a while ago, but just like how her bleed stacks now, and also the carnage, like, reapply, you know, with the cooldown deduction, I do think it is substantial. But yeah, definitely very, very big for Queen here. And, you know, you've been watching some of my gameplay. Again, I've been playing her. I think she feels really good. Not on all maps, because Queen is not great everywhere. That's just by her character. She has no vertical mobility. She has no way to mitigate damage, so longer range maps aren't good for her. But these, like, control, push, flashpoint, these kind of game modes, Queen eats up on. Even like King's Row is pretty good for her, right? So if you're looking like kind of soul searching for a character pick, I think Queen is a very, very good option this season. Now, couple caveats to this. I think the biggest thing here, honestly, I don't even think it's that big. But since tanks have less knockback, what you have to remember is that now Queen Knife is not going to pull tanks as much or as far anymore. But the caveat to that is that Knife has always been much better to hit on a squishy. It does a much higher proportion of their health, and it pulls them further. You know, even when it was 30%, it would pull them much further to you completely out of position. And then it forces other resources from the team. When you pull a tank a little farther to you, and they have much more health than the other character, you're much less likely to actually get anything useful out of the enemy, and then you're just down one of your cooldowns. Hitting a squishy and getting them out of position and forcing everything, much, much, much more valuable. So I do not think that it really is that much of a nerf to Queen, at least on the knockback side. In fact, I think it is overall a net buff because of the benefits that she gets from not being knocked back. But yeah, that's Queen. I think this character is going to be really good. I don't think she is hard meta again. We'll have to wait and see. But she is in a much better spot now, and I think she is much more playable, especially, you know, since compared to the last metas. I will say with some of the other characters like Hog and Mauga, she struggles a little bit against them, but again, Queen doesn't want to fight tanks overall. She wants to get on the back line and kind of ignore the tank whenever she can. So it's not that big of a deal. I think if you were to try and play this character in your ranked games, very good pick for, again, Flashpoint, push, control, shorter ranged brawl maps. Definitely good, solid pick to play if you like her, because I love Queen. Whenever Queen is playable, that's just back in the old rank system, this is the character that I was able to push to Grandmaster on because she had just gotten recently buffed and I was pretty good at Queen, so I just kind of rode the train to Grandmaster. And the other day on stream, I also went on a pretty good winning streak just kind of playing Queen and Diva. But, you know, maybe I'll make a video on Diva too, because I think Diva really gets a lot out of the armor change, even if her damage is kind of hit by it. But anyways, that is going to do it for me. I feel like I haven't done a big Overwatch discussion, like a real Overwatch discussion in a while, so I wanted to get one on the channel to get some stuff out of the way between all the Marvel Rivals and whatever random stuff I've been doing. But if you want to get in on these discussions live, that is going to be twitch.tv/Lane Hemingway. I do a discussion every time I go live, and at least once a week I try to do a longer other kind of presentation. You've been seeing my Unfixable series. That's going to go away a little bit because I'm running out of ideas there, but do not worry, something else will take its place. I'm very excited for those. But yeah, if you want to support the channel, you can do all that good YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe. It does really help me out. I would like to hear what you guys think about Queen. And also all of my socials are down below. If you want to put a hot take in my Discord, I do like reacting to those, and I'm looking always for hot takes. So please feel free to do that. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.